And I 24 years ago, and I can tell you.
24 years, and what were you doing? Shirley, and you know what, Shirley, and I can tell you in 1989.
And where did you grow up?
Okay, no, one second. I can tell you in 1989. When I was denied an opportunity for a job because a white news director made it perfectly clear that he was not going to hire another African American, I understand in terms of being in that position on the other side. That's not 24 years ago. That's 1989. That's when I'm sitting here clearly in the newsroom, the best candidate, clearly by all the folks there, and this news director made it clear, I'm not going to hire another black man. It was something that happened 10 years ago. So what I'm making there is, what happened? So don't sit here and say,
well, hold on, both of you.
Look,
Roland. What she's saying is, and
I'm not saying it's the same.
Well, hold on just a moment. I think, Roland, what she's saying is, and what she's been trying to get out throughout this show and earlier on, is that if people had given her a chance to hear her out in full, if they'd heard the totality of her speech and not just that one part, they would have recognized that what she was trying to do was tell a story within a story to show that racism is bad. But she says everyone judged just on that one piece of sound and judged her on it. Do you feel like you should have heard more or reached out to her to get her perspective before you said what you did?
If I had heard it, absolutely. But I will still say, Rick, whether or not I hear the whole thing or not, what I want people to do, whether they are somebody who was born in the 40s, the 50s, or the 60s, or whether today, is not make judgments, not make a decision as to how I'm going to help somebody more or less based upon those preconceived notions. And I can tell you, hey, I don't know what world you were living in. One second.
Roland, finish up and we'll give her a chance.
I cannot listen to more of what he is saying because he is dead wrong.
Right.
I don't know where he grew up, but he is dead wrong.
All right, Shirley, let's be as respectful as we can, and I'll ask you to go ahead. You have an opportunity now to explain why it is that you disagree with Roland. Roland, let's give her a listen here. Hold on, Roland. Let's give her a chance to respond.
I don't want to get into an argument with him because he's clearly from a different world. He doesn't have any experience with the world I've lived in, so I don't think we can agree on anything, okay?
I don't.
You know.
Well, I'll tell you. What does this say? Let's forget this conversation between you all. And I was thinking earlier today, when I tried to explain the story earlier today to my kids, they thought I had horns in my head. They didn't quite understand that which we as a nation are still so, dare I use the word, stuck on. Why do we constantly get in like conversations about NAACP, who said what to whom, was it racist, what did the Tea Party say, what did the Tea Party do? And I'll say this once again, when I talk to my teenage sons and my daughter, they don't understand what we're talking about. Do we continue to bring back parts of the past to get ourselves? Well, I'll just leave the question there, and I'll let you guys respond.
Well, no, Rick, I'll tell you, Rick, we don't necessarily do that because if you go to the EEOC right now, you will see the kind of complaints that are being filed today. If you listen to John Boyd, the National Black Farmers Association, talking about what they're still facing today. When you look at the denial of opportunities, you hear from black fishermen, the Vietnamese fishermen down the Gulf Coast right now. These are not conversations from 30 years ago. These are things that are happening today. So have we changed? Have we evolved? There is no doubt we've actually done that. But we also cannot deny what is happening right now. The opportunities are being denied to people of color, even today. Rules being changed based upon, well, do this, but it also have to it's a reality for some people in this world.
Shirley, how much would you say that you are a victim of this conversation, this debate that sprung out late last week between the NAACP and the Tea Party?
It had everything to do with it. That speech would never have even come to light
if it had not been for the debate that the NAACP was locked in with the Tea Party.
So do you feel like they
And I made the same speech to a group of students at Albany State College on October 15th. They played it over and over in Albany, because I make the point to the young people that we got to move beyond it. We got to try to strive to be the best we can be, and then we got to reach back and help somebody else. I talked to them about how our foreparents tried to reach back, and that's how we made it. They were reaching back and helping. My message is an upbeat message to try to get people to work together to make life better for all of us.
Roland, do you believe that she's a victim of
So Rick, it's a question for us then, as it relates to Andrew Breitbart, as it relates to big government, in terms of what is the motive, as it relates to...
Well, you just mentioned a name, and I think the least we can do... Hold on. You just mentioned a gentleman named Andrew Breitbart. Andrew Breitbart is the conservative website media producer who posted this story and got it out there. And Shirley is accusing Andrew Breitbart of very carefully editing her speech to make it try and sound like something that she isn't. That's what Shirley is saying.
Are we going to be as vigorous in questioning? Are we going to be vigorous in questioning him and those around him for their motives as we are as it relates to Shirley or to me or to anyone else? Well, because again, the story has multiple layers there, and that also speaks to it.
Hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to continue with the discussion about whether, and this is important, whether someone, Andrew Breitbart in this case, seems to be the accusation, was actually trying to instigate this by carefully editing the video as such. That's Shirley's accusation. More on that when we come back. This is Rick Says. We're with Shirley Sherrod and Roland Martin, and this is a special report.
Thank you for calling. Can I help cover funeral costs?
And Martin, my colleague, with us as well, and this is a difficult conversation for many Americans, and people will be having it and having these types of arguments. But you mentioned something a little while ago, and I guess this is an important part of the story. You mentioned this gentleman named Breitbart, who has a blog and is a conservative blogger, who raised this issue and posted this story. And you were going to make some comments about him, Roland, and I interrupted you. I want you to give. I want to give you.
Well, yeah, I made the point that.
We've reached out to him, by the way. We've reached out to him. I just wanted to put that on the record as well.
I made the point that Shirley's correct when she says it was a question of the NAACP and the Tea Party, which does not mean that the NAACP was wrong in going after those racist elements within the Tea Party. So what you have here is you have Andrew Breitbart, big government, and then that whole system, if you will, surrounding him that they're involved in, that wants to denigrate and demonize and destroy the NAACP for calling folks out. And so so the question then becomes, as it relates to how we break down this story, do we have a situation where we only say, what did the White House do? What did Shirley do? What did Roland say? But what did the folks who posted the video say? And so I believe our response is also to question that as well. At the same time, in talking to John Boyd with the National Black Farmers, the people who were involved in the massive racism there, he said many of those folks still have their jobs in the Department of Agriculture. So there are multiple questions that we can certainly raise that deserve answers.
Shirley?
And Roland, you should know that I worked on the black farm issue even before John Boyd was involved in it. That's how far back I go. You know, I've been dealing with racist issues all of my life, but I have worked hard to make sure that wasn't a part of me, and that I like trying to treat people like I want to be treated. And if each of us that, we would do away with a lot of what's going on.
Well, maybe interestingly enough, as we get ready to close this segment, and I want to thank both of you. You know, we see this in both sides oftentimes. We see people take a statement or a comment, and suddenly it becomes a very big story. What we've tried to do during this hour of this show is provide the context so you at home can make your own decision as to who's right and who's possibly wrong.